I love the motorcycle industry. You know, I love the motorcycle industry. There's this kicking the can down the road kind of mentality of things that are. Oh, okay. Yeah, I got stuff to say. I'm 100% kind of a rah-rah cheerleader as to like reminding people why we like work in this industry. They're entertaining, and sometimes you just need entertainment.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Motorcycle Adventures podcast. And if you're a regular listener to the show, you know that today's guest, Jason Gearld, really needs no introduction, but nevertheless, he's here. And full disclosure, this episode is just a couple of guys talking about the sport that we all love. Listeners, if you get an extra second, please do us a tremendous favor. Take a moment, rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast. It really helps us out in the rankings, and we really appreciate it. Also, don't forget about us on social media at Ben Motorcycle Adventures on both Facebook and Instagram. Speaking of social media, one last little thing here before we get into this episode. Both Jason and I are doing an Instagram giveaway to commemorate this episode. So go take a look at our feeds at Ben Motorcycle Adventures or at Phoenix Handlebars to learn more. That is if you want to win a set of Phoenix Handlebars, grips, donuts, hat, t-shirts, you name it, everything Jason has in his arsenal, we're giving away in one complete package, and one lucky listener, one follower, if you will, is going to win that. We will announce the winner of that contest on next week's podcast.
And going back to the AIM Expo side of things, is I'm 100% kind of a rah-rah cheerleader as to like reminding people why we like work in this industry. I had a good conversation with some guys from Bonnier that I used to work with, and I'm like, when you understand that in the motorcycle industry, you're not going to make much money. You're going to wear a lot of hats. You're probably going to have an ambiguous title. When you accept all that and you kind of know that that's part of the charm for what it is that we do, then it's like, rad. All right, cool. Let's just get shit done now. You know, and then when the people who come from maybe outsider industry or have different expectations, like it's going to be, we're going to make bank or everything's going to be completely dialed. It's like, it's not going to be dialed. It's like, dude, we're a little loose. Most of us aren't even that smart. I mean, listen to me. I'm an idiot. So, but I love moto. So I come at it from a passion place. All that tied back into like you is that I love hearing you, like, your passion for things. And that's where I'm always like, I want to see you grow. All I care about after that is that my friend continues to have fun, and not be stressed at all those other things. That's what I don't want to see what happened to. I don't want to see that happen to you, where that you have a burden. It's a burden for you to have to go like ride and take people on tours. Like, how shitty would that be? You're like, I don't want to go like ride. And that would make me sad.
Yeah, of course. I think that would be super unfortunate. And, from time to time, well, let me back up here. I don't want anybody to get the wrong impression. I'm not complaining about anything. We're all having a good time. But occasionally you'll run into somebody and they'll say, man, I wish I could do that for a living too. And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, well, do you? Because it reminds me of that stupid success iceberg thing you'll see photos of on social media from time to time. And people just see, or have a tendency to see, or propensity to see, the finished product. So you don't see everything behind the scenes, behind closed doors, middle of the night, sacrifice. People don't know that I worked every single day from April 11th to November 30th. And not everybody's willing to make that kind of sacrifice to chase their dreams. And I think in that aspect, a lot of social media and influencers and people like that have done a lot of wannabe entrepreneurs a disservice. They make you think that it's easy, and it's not easy, man. It is a grind. And I'll tell you what, clocking in and out from a job every day, going to work, that's easy. Being an entrepreneur, that's pretty hard.
And that's like when people like look at, when I was at Fox, people would see us go to the Indy trade show and they would think like how jealous they were that we got to go to the trade show. They don't, they just hear about all the party stories and, and all that stuff that you come back with. They don't realize it's like, yeah, of course I don't drink. So thankfully I get to bed at a reasonable hour, but yeah, most of those assholes haven't even been to bed. And then they have to show up the next morning at a booth and do, like a 10-hour day on their feet talking to dealers. It's like, yeah, there's a lot of work. Of course that's self-induced, pain, but yeah, there's a lot of work that goes along with like setting up the booth and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, like, dude, I walk into the halls of the AIM Expo and I'm like, I'm home. This is where I belong, being around a bunch of moto people.
Yeah, I can relate. Affirmation. If we conduct a great tour, I teach somebody how to ride or improve their adventure bike riding skills or whatever, I can totally relate. And you're reminded why you're passionate about this sport and this industry and why you're in this space. So I definitely don't want to discourage anybody from trying to start some sort of motorcycle related business, because it's a great place to be, but don't be misled. It's going to be a grind. And even if you have a big bankroll, you can cash flow everything. It's going to eat up a fair amount of your time.
Are you factory sponsored by any oil companies, or is this like podcast like being funded by?
The podcast is funded by me, and there's not a tremendous amount of expense associated with having a podcast. Obviously, there is some high-end equipment here, but the big investment is really time. Now, I've been approached by some people interested, and I don't want to throw around a bunch of buzzwords, but I didn't think those were really strategic partnerships. I didn't really think they align with what we're doing here. And then I've actually been approached by a lot of people to put ads on my website or write blog posts that, basically backlink to their website and talk about some of their products. But again, that stuff's got to be strategic for me. If it makes sense, yeah, I'm more than willing to consider it.
Well, I was going to say, like, if you don't mind, I had never met him, but Alex from Spectre, we had talked a few times, like via email through Motorcycle Industry Jobs, and I'd put up on LinkedIn that I was coming to the show. He said, make sure you stop by and put a face with a name. So I did. And, we just kind of hit it off. Never met the guy. And I'll have to say, it's like, for the Spectre guys, I was like, how long have you worked there? He's like, I don't remember how many years. He said 7 or 8 or something like that. He goes, but he was born into it. It was his grandpa's company. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. But the more we talked, it's like he's the exact same type of mentality as me. Is like, he goes, I just love being at the show. He goes, I love being around motorcycle people. I love, what it is that we do. And I was like, dude, I'm forever a fan. It's like, that was awesome. It's like that. And that's one of those things that I never would have got that. I'm not saying I never would have got it, but I didn't get that via email. But I met him and talked to him for 5 minutes at the trade show, face to face, and got to discover that this guy is like, it's not just a company to him. He takes it serious and, loves the motorcycle industry. So take that for what it's worth. If anybody wants to support Spectre, know that you're at least, it's not merely just some dude in there slinging it. It's like family owned and
interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, me neither. And like I say, it changed, but that's one of those things, changed my whole outlook, like on Spectre, like right then and there. I know they've been around for a ton of years.
Yeah, I've never used their engine oil or two-stroke oil, but I always use their suspension oil.
Spectre. Yeah, we used to sling the heck out of that back in the Stoughton Cycle Ranch days in Indiana, which that was interesting. See, there was another thing, like I'm back there in Ohio, so Indiana's within driving distance. I'm walking over, and I'm at the Stasek booth, and I look up, and there was Wilma Stoughton, the woman who hired me, to work for her little accessory shop, after school. So here I am. God, that would have been 94. So here I am 25 years later, and I see her and give her a big hug. And we talk like on Facebook and stuff like that, but I hadn't seen her in a long time. So there's another thing where going back to shows like that for a guy like me becomes like almost like a homecoming,
Yeah, I definitely need to get out to one of these trade shows with you this year. Switching gears, social media. How's that been going for you lately? I took a little bit of time off, getting back in a groove. What about you?
It's always good, interesting. It's that learning curve of how to play the game. Of course, like I just don't give a shit about I mean, your analytics, you're so smart and work circles around me. As long as I feel like I just keep putting up good content, and I try to hashtag things right, I'm cool with that. I'm done doing paid posts. It's like, I'll let things happen organically. If I look at things, if I'm doing a good job, it's going to catch on. People will talk. It's not that crowded of an industry. We're not that big. So, but it's still funny. Like sometimes you'll put up something and it'll get a ton of likes, and then something else gets, like something close to nothing, and it leaves you scratching your head. But I put up some, and that's like going to events is obviously always nice, because then you get out and you get the content and you stay in front of people, and it's going good. I'm still the believer, and you got to support. Like in my case, I still feel like we have to support our media channels. Like, I've got friends at like Vital MX, Racer X, High Torque, Swap Moto Live. I mean, I know all these guys. Support them. They're out there doing a good job too. Besides just trying to like help you sling product, they're also doing a good job of keeping people interested in riding motorcycles. So I always say, it's like, if nobody's riding motorcycles, ain't nobody has a reason to like buy handlebars and grips. So it's like, yeah, I need them, and that's sort of pulling away and just thinking that you can run it all on your own. I get like when money's tight, trust me, I get it. But at the same time, I'm like, I need, my success kind of hinges upon their success too. I actually watched, yesterday, Swap Moto Live did an interview with Pete Fox.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And everybody remembers like when I started in 2000, that's when Fox was kind of blowing up, going into the mall stores, like PacSun and Tilly's.
Oh yeah. I remember that.
Yeah. It was an interesting time to like, yeah, I work for Fox Racing. And then you sit down and your first phone calls are people just shitty as can be, like, because, you're out of inventory and they think it all went to JCPenney's. I'm like, yeah, we're not in JCPenney's. It's like, it's not where we are. And, yeah, so it was interesting. And so my Ada had asked him kind of like, like when they were doing all that stuff, and not in so many words, he didn't really back him into a corner. Pussy. And but I liked what Pete said. He said what was good for moto, and he was meaning it like in like when they would go to supercrosses and he would see like people wearing like OP shirts and all these like t-shirts that weren't moto related. He goes, and that kind of broke his heart. He goes, why? So as Fox started making more casual wear, more people were wearing it at the events. And it wasn't really, I guess, targeted so much at the mall store thing, but just them making casual in general. But he goes, what was good for moto was good for Fox. And I'm like, yeah, I like that. It's like, dude, if you set out to grow, if you're out to try to grow our sport, it's ultimately going to benefit you in the long run.
Yeah. That's a good point.
I'm not here to try to like steal all the other like handlebar guys' business. I'm here to try to help grow motorcycling.
Yeah, and back to your comment about, the organic versus the paid, it's really interesting to see what's happened to Instagram over the past few years. I mean, the organic reach is nowhere near what it was, and I think for somebody in a small business, it can be tough to justify that ad spend, because you're not just competing against other people in your space, right? You're not just competing against a Renthal or a Pro Taper, but you could be going up against the ad spend of a Coca-Cola, Nike, or whatever. I mean, the ads are targeted towards people's interests, and we all have an awful lot of interests. So, the people that you're after, they may never see your ads. They may get flooded with others from large corporations.
I mean, if I'm going to pat myself like on the back, the other day I was going out. I got an email on a Sunday from a guy, and he was thanking me for his box of bars. Doesn't know me, just wrote the company. He writes the company, and I write him back like instantaneously. I was like, oh, what a great email to get on a Sunday morning. I'm stoked that you got your box. I'm happy that you like it. And I go, by the way, check under the crossbar pad. He writes back. He was like, I didn't even realize it was a Sunday. He goes, I can't believe I'm getting an email back from the company. And he goes, and I'm getting it on a Sunday. And he goes, but he didn't even know about the pad. That I kind of did like his, we drew his name and all that stuff under there. And then a little while later, he wrote back and was like, holy crap, you've got a customer for life. This is awesome. You've made my weekend. And I'm like, awesome. It's like, that's all that always stokes me out is like, that's the guy who's, pumped on his purchase, pumped on something that was like, probably just maybe had some tweaked bars and thought he was just getting some fresh new bars. But if you've created a bigger experience for the guy, and then obviously just trying to even emailing him back just kind of proves like sometimes it's like, dude, people just sometimes want that human contact and to try to be that.
Yeah. I mean, customer service, I don't think customer service ever goes away. Everybody who's ever worked for me knows how I talk about, customer service and not just externally, not just the customers, but internally, with the organization. But it can be tough to get a hold of people these days, and it's really frustrating. And I'm in the same boat as you. When people email me, I try to get right back to them. I actually get a lot of questions, not necessarily from customers, but from people who may listen to this show. And I try to give them thoughtful advice, thoughtful opinions, and again, I think it's that type of communication, prompt, well thought out. I don't think that's going anywhere anytime soon. And when I think about it, that may be a skill too. Maybe not everybody has that.
Yeah, and stuff a lot. We may not have a ton of people like rocking the product, but the people who have it seem to get it. They're liking like what I'm trying to do for them to make them stoked, and then that makes it all worthwhile for me. It's just like, am I stoked that I've got like some guys like Stank Dog or Bubba Polly, who's a like top 20 contender like for Supercross series. Him and his team, he's agreed. He wrote me and wanted to do something. I was like, I've never set out to try to go after like all the pros. Because to me, at the end of the day, the people who, are riding and racing like on weekends after working a regular job, as I always say, those are the hero. But it doesn't mean that I don't want those riders. It's like, of course they validate your company and give you exposure that you can't get otherwise. So that stuff's cool. But I love hearing back from just the regular riding people. Yeah,
definitely. And my 2 cents, it's been really cool to follow your journey. You create really unique content. And I think when we cross paths, you probably had 200 or 300 followers. So you've really worked your butt off from an organic perspective. And, I enjoy seeing your growth. I guess if I could offer any advice, I would say stick with it. Not that I have a huge following, but I know it's a lot of work. And my first few years, I probably just didn't get it. I think you've got kind of a jump start on that. So again, I applaud you. And, this is where a lot of business is done these days. So don't give up on it.
I think I told you, have you ever listened to the podcast, How I Built This, the NPR podcast?
Yeah, I used to listen to it quite a bit. I don't really listen to it anymore. Obviously I listen to some others.
Well, hook me up with some others, dummy. I need more.
Yeah. I don't know if you'd want to listen to some of the crap I do, but obviously I listen to Joe Rogan. I think, when he's got good guests on there, the bottom line is it's just entertaining. And a lot of podcasts I just listen to for the entertainment factor.
They're entertaining. And sometimes you just need entertainment. You got to let your mind decompress. But yeah, like the Yvon Chouinard from Patagonia one, Like, you know, he kind of talked about like people who rise too fast, you know, kind of quick to fall. I mean, that's.
I haven't listened to that one. I should listen to that one.
Yeah, that's a good one. I read the book "Let My People Go Surfing," which was also that one went around when we were at Fox. One of the guys read that, and it was passed on to Greg, and it just kind of went through the circles. But that one was really good. And his whole thing was like, he says bureaucracy enters the workplace at about 100 people, you know? So it's like he was able to kind of get away with a lot of the, you know, having, you know, the daycare and kids and dogs in the workplace. And just, you know, like, I guess their whole premise was of the book was, you don't decide that you're going to go surfing next Thursday. Like, I'm going to take next Thursday off and go surf. It's like, no, you surf like when the surf, like, you know, like calls for it, like when the water's doing what it, you know, it needs to be doing. So they said the surf report would be like on the front door when you would get to work in the morning. It's up to you. If you know, if you've got like shit to do.
Yeah, well, it wouldn't matter. I'd be out in the surf every time. You know, for me, as far as books and reading and all that's concerned, I still take in a lot of books, audio books. I read every week. But I'm careful too, because it's really easy to get bound up in the content and just keep taking in more content, but not taking any action, you know, not producing an outcome. So I think from a business perspective, you've got to make sure that you leverage what you learn and take some action. Otherwise, you're just taking in a bunch of information, right?
Dude, that's 100%, man. I actually told somebody that. I'm like, you know, I said, I'm done reading for a while because my mind gets a little too mushy with so many different things. And it's like, no, just apply the things that you've learned from the books that you've read. Like, I mean, and I have like 4 really good go-tos for me that I'm like, if I can just apply those things, it's like, you're going to be okay. So, but yeah, you sent me that one last night and I'm like, rad. And I will, but it's just like, man, between all the different like podcasts that I'll listen to and then the books, it's like, sometimes I feel like I have this wealth of information in my head and then I just choose to watch Cheers instead.
Yeah. Like I said, you gotta, you know, you take something from everything and try to apply it or test it out. But yeah, information overload. I listen to a lot of educational podcasts too. And like I said, you can listen to that stuff all day if you want. It may make you a little bit better, but if you don't put something into action, I mean, so yeah, I'm kind of there too. I think my head's full. It's time to take some of those tactics and put them into play.
I think the reason why I love how I built this so much is because I listen to how many people don't have shit figured out either and have went on to become successful companies. And it's always just kind of, what's the word? You know, it just kind of inspires that little bit of confidence. Like, okay, cool. I'm not like, you know, it's like, so I'm not crazy that I'm not an expert like on accounting, or I'm not an expert on social media stuff. Well, you don't have to be, you know, it's like, dude, just do something and just go. And that's like what I hear with a lot of these people. It's like, I mean, it kind of blows me away. Some people who, you know, go on to be really successful and had no idea like about their job field. They weren't an expert on purses who's the woman who killed herself recently? Kate Spade, her and her husband. Yeah, dude.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. And it was so interesting because and that's the beauty of that show. It's like, I wasn't going to listen to it because I'm like, I don't give a shit about purses. That's not my thing. And then I listened to it and I'm like telling Marissa, like, I'm so glad I listened because I had so many like awesome takeaways from it. Like, she wasn't a purse expert. She didn't know how to sew. She wasn't a designer. She just knew what she wanted. And they found somebody who was a seamstress in the back of a magazine and a pattern maker. And that woman helped her like make something out of burlap. You know, later on parlayed that into $1 billion company. But wasn't like I have a vision kind of person. Just had drive.
That's a good point. I think if you wait around till you know this or you know that, or you're an expert in this field, you've waited too long. It's pretty tough to keep up with technology and advancements today. So sometimes you just got to dive in and drink from the hose, learn on the fly, if you will.
Well, I mean, you and I discovered things with our handlebars, for instance, like, you know, on the dual sport bikes, it kind of breaks my heart that we can't go after that a little bit stronger because there's just not, my two taller bars don't have enough room to accommodate like all the controls like on KTMs. So obviously it's like, okay, well, that's something that we're just gonna have to work like on in due time. But if I wouldn't have discovered that, had we not just got the ball rolling and pushed product out there, then it's obviously, it doesn't hurt me in the motocross and, off-road racing circles. It just means maybe for, the dual sport guys, it's like, our two lower bars are fine, but.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough the way KTM has all that stuff set up. And
well,
they're, for them, it's a way, everything's as short as possibly can be. And that's one of the reasons they get their bikes down to such low weights. But yeah, that's a bummer, but I'm sure, something's on the horizon and we'll be fully outfitted with the Phoenix Handlebars. So.
Oh yeah, I get it's one of those things. I mean, for me, my quiet time is when I take Hank, my dog, on a stroll. That's like my board meeting. It's like I'm just out there and I ramble with myself. Like, I mean, I must look like a crazy dude because I talk out loud, but I'm just talking things out. Like, that's my business plan is, okay, if we do this and, it's like, all right, then we can bring in these handlebars and we can make these changes because, I want to keep with the story that we tell. I want to be consistent about that. But I also want to be able to make sure we do the right products for everybody. But you're not going to be able to satisfy everyone. But
yeah, I got some criticism the other day, and I guess we'll leave it at that. But I duly noted, and always try to improve. But also, we got to realize we can't be everything to everyone. So
yeah. My friend Nick McBride from Slow Vision Goggles. We spoke this morning. We talked on the weekly, and one thing that we've kind of made sure we never say to each other is, what you should make or what you should do, because we hear it from everybody.
Oh, shit, I've done that to you.
Yeah, but there's a difference. There's a difference between like where that information comes from sometimes, but but everybody who, in his case, we'll push him. It's like, oh, you should be making snowboard goggles. And it's like, yeah, we're not a snowboard company. It's like, that's not where I want to go. It's like, oh, you need to be making sunglasses for mountain bikers. He's like, yeah, I'm not. That's cool. Maybe that would sell, but we're not a motorcycle. We're not a mountain bike company. He goes, I just want to make like goggles for moto. And if it's like, I don't know if you saw like last night. Post went up, a set of bars went on to a Harley Davidson Dyna. The guy's like, I got a guy up in like Modesto area that's been working our bars. He's been drilling them and he's getting them like in the V-twin market. Awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, super cool. And he's asked me he wants me to make like 1-inch bars. And I'm like, yeah, that's just not the direction I want to go like right now. It's like, I'm not bummed to see him like on Harleys. I think that's rad. It's like those Harley guys that are kind of inspired by the moto style. If you're willing to accommodate our bars onto your bike, hell yeah, I'll put that up as a social post. To me, that's something to be proud of. That's super cool. But I'm not like ready to, pony up another, 30 or 40K on doing handlebars for the V-twin guys specifically. It's not my market. It's not my level of expertise.
It's not where your passion is. Mm-mm. I get it.
Yeah.
All right, man. I've had you on the line for quite a bit. I'm afraid my headphones are going to die, then that would be problematic. So, yeah. I'm going to cut out of here. Thanks for your time, and I'll put this thing together, and we'll put it out next week.
Awesome, brother. Always stoked to talk to you, man. Thanks for letting me ramble on.
Hey, thank you, Jason, for coming on the show again. Really appreciate your contributions. Listeners, don't forget about him at Phoenix Handlebars on both Facebook and Instagram. And don't forget about our giveaway. Again, go take a look at both of our Instagram accounts. And basically, you've got 3 or 4 days here to jump into this giveaway and, again, get outfitted with everything that is Phoenix Handlebars. All right, listeners, time for me to get out of here. Look for the next episode next week. I'm gonna put one out on GPS tracks and specifically developing tracks with Google Maps. That's coming. It'll be a short but valuable podcast, and the reason I think it's going to be valuable is I probably have 300 emails asking me how I develop routes. So stay tuned for that. Also, want to spend a little bit of time talking about New Mexico this May. Now, I'm going down to ride the BDR in the middle of May, and I've kind of opened it up to anybody that wants to come. It's not a tour, but I will be riding the route, and some people have already raised their hand and said, hey, I want to go. So I'm probably going to do a little side podcast on that, what it looks like day by day. But basically, people can show up and ride with us and just merely be responsible for your food, your lodging, so on and so forth. So stay tuned for that too. I've also definitely working on booking more guests, so more content to come. I appreciate you guys listening, and we'll see you next week.